My name is Paul Hayes. I'm the director of Táin Art Centre in Dundalk. So welcome to the third of our film clubs online, following from Cardboard Gangsters and Mary Claire, what was the first movie we had?
Dublin Old School.
Dublin Old School, thanks very much. And now the Young Offenders in our look at Irish
young men and drugs.
Look at young men, drugs, and Irish cinema that is available on Netflix, so we could have Netflix parties and stuff. So just for your intros, I hate doing intros. Julie is your intro that I researched. Julie worked in the US for 10 years. She's produced 3 award-winning short films, has worked with 20th Century Fox, Fox Movie Channel, Walt Disney Animation, Paramount, Lionsgate, Sony Pictures, MTV, UTV, TV3 and RTE. On moving back to Ireland, she obviously produced the Young Offenders movie, which earned her an IFTA nomination for Best Film. And then she went on to found her own production company called MK1 Productions to promote diversity, inclusion, and innovation through storytelling. MK1 Productions has office in Dublin and a base in Cork and LA. Julie, do you disagree with any of that? Is that all?
It's very precise.
I was all on the internet.
Yeah, I think you got the gist of it there. Yeah.
The lads are you're shorter intros. Dominic is an Irish actor. Started acting while working towards a BSc in microbiology in University College Cork, which he gained in 2010. Young Offenders was his first film role. Until then, mainly a theatre actor. Is that all factually true, Dominic?
It is. You left out the part about being able to play the kazoo, but I mean, we can get
demonstrate that later.
Yeah, we can touch on that later.
A little private joke from the thing. And Shane is an actor and writer, known for Young Offenders and Win the Shakes Barley. And I think I have to kind of congratulate you, Shane. I'm a Man United fan. I'd like to congratulate you and your people for winning your first Premier League title in 20 years. Congratulations.
Yeah. There was a lot in between that, but then again, there was 30 years as well. So appreciate that, Paul.
No problem. Julie, can I ask you, you probably had to answer this a lot. How did you come to work on Young Offenders? Where did that all start for you?
So I worked with Peter for a number of years, the director, before we made The Young Offenders. And we made a TV show together, and we just made like 3 series of it back to back. So we kind of wanted to do something different, and Peter had he just got it into his head he wanted to make a feature film, and he just went away and had to think about it, and he had this idea for The Young Offenders, and he just called me up and was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, yeah, it's brilliant, look, let's just do it. So we just decided on that phone call, like it was just kind of carrying on from, I mean, I don't know what we'd made like 3 or 4 or 5 shows or something together before that. So it was just kind of a natural continuation of a really easy kind of working environment that we had together, you know.
Cool. And did you possibly think then that it would become the fastest Irish film to break the 1 million mark in the Irish box office 2016? It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 100%. Ran for 25 weeks in Irish cinema and is now available in over 180 countries on Netflix. That's some stats.
You're some man for the research, Paul.
I know, I just did it.
No, I mean, we'd absolutely and utterly no idea that it would do that. Neither of us, like, I mean, I don't even know what we were hoping for, but like, I remember even when it started in the cinema, we had looked at other kind of milestones of other Irish films and been like, oh, it'd be great if it reached that, or oh, it'd be great if it reached that. And we couldn't believe it when it just kept going and going. Like, it just, you know, we just happened to hit the zeitgeist at the time, and it was just a great coming together of a lot of people who had, you know, a lot of us who hadn't worked together before, Shane or Dom, you know, I'd never met any of those guys, and it was just, you know, they're all such talented actors. We were very lucky, you know.
And Dominic, was it an audition process for you, the kind of standard audition thing, or how did you get involved?
I'd worked with Peter on a hidden camera show called The Fear. I did like 1 day on it where I was just dressed in like a blue kind of leotard boiler suit kind of thing, running around Cork City. So I'm not sure if my talent shone through on that day, but anyway, he gave me a call He
I
actually
produced that.
Julie produced that, so obviously Julie saw my talent that day.
Something shone through the leotard anyway.
Yeah,
Well, talent has many ways of manifesting itself.
Is that what you call it?
Way. I'd also worked with Peter's wife Hilary on a show in the Cork Opera House called the Improv Panto, so I had connections kind of on multiple fronts. Peter sent me the script to read. I really, really enjoyed it. He brought me in and we read a couple of the scenes, did a bit of improvisation. He asked me what my thoughts were on the character. I obviously made the character more like me than the way it was written in the script to help my own purposes. And at the end of the audition, he was just like, the part's yours if you want it. Now, like Julie, I didn't expect it to do half as well as it did. You know, I was kind of like, good experience for me. I've never done a feature film before. So it's a good opportunity for me to get some camera experience. And Jesus, it just absolutely took off.
And when you said you made some changes to the character as was written, is that, did you bring some of Dom to the role of the sergeant? Is that what you?
Yeah, so I think in the script originally he was written to be a bit more kind of rougher on the edges, or a bit less kind of anally precise about things. So Dom was bringing in that kind of microbiological, meticulous nature to it. And like, I was like, Peter, would actually be more interesting, right, if he was less like the two lads and if he was more kind of like this really analytical detective. Peter was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Also, we kind of had a discussion about, like, you know, he was a bit like Roy Keane in certain respects in terms of his doggedness and his determination, but that's probably where the similarities ended.
Okay. I was wondering how you're going to get your degree in microbiology into this, but well done.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Shane, same question. Suppose, how did you come to the project?
I had been in college in Stefan Nefa with Hilary Rose, and I was asked back to do a play. I'd finished, and of course, when you finish college, you don't really have much work. And I was asked to do a play, and I got to know Hilary that way. So I suspect Peter would have seen me in plays and stuff like that. And then Peter asked me to do some of the handy Sandy stuff that Hilary was doing, and I was playing Hilary's boyfriend in some of those skits. And then at one stage, because I'd done shows that are not too dissimilar from The Young Offenders, I said to Peter, I'm not interested in doing this part. And I thought I'd kind of close the door on that world because of typecasting, I said, which is ridiculous now if you think about it. I said, I don't really want to be playing this working class scumbag at all, which was Handy Sandy's boyfriend. I'm going to give it a break because I'd done a play called Love, Peace and Robbery and Disco Pigs and lots of theatre work, and I was worried about being typecast. And then he came back to me, and I was like, wow, he's come back to me with some work. And I think he originally asked me to read for the guard, Dominic's part. And I did a terrible audition for that. And I think that was a kind of a setup to get to ask me to do Billy Murphy. And I'll be honest with you, I was quite hesitant. I'm in my fiance's house at the moment. And I actually remember I was out in the hallway. And I know Julie had rang me and said, well, there's this much money. And this much money was like very little. And I was quite reluctant because I just moved to Dublin. And then Peter made a phone call to me and he was like, look, Shane, shit off pot. Sorry for cursing, but essentially that's what it was. And if anybody knows Peter's quite upper middle class, lovely chap from Monkstown, you know, and I hadn't seen that fight in him before. I hadn't realised that he had that kind of doggedness in him, that he was going to get the film made, because I'm sure Julie knows and Dominic knows, 9 times out of 10 these things are pie in the sky and they never get made. But Peter has this kind of alchemy about him, and Julie too, that when they say they're going to get something done, they get it done. And I believed Peter at that moment, so I jumped on board, and I was really like, it's one thing I'm so grateful for was that I said yes, because it could have gone to somebody else, and I'd be regretting it for the rest of my life that I haven't got involved, because that whole world naturally has expanded. But in the very least, the film was something special. As Julie will tell you, when we went to a screening in London, just to hear the gasps of some of the people when they saw the scenery in Ireland alone, that was one of the proudest moments for me outside of the comedy and the acting in the film, was that people thought Ireland was beautiful, and we got to sell that in some way, you know.
Yeah.
Long-winded answer. But
No, it's great. Thank you so much for that. Julie, tell me a little bit about how the movie did overseas, because it does, because I just watched it on the Netflix party, but I'd seen it a couple of times before. In terms of its Irishness, did that translate well?
It did really well abroad, which was also surprising for us. Like, comedy is really, you know, it doesn't travel well, you know, traditionally, and especially with, you know, really strong accents on it. So like, one of the first things was when we were, because like we had our international premiere at Fantastic Fest in Texas, and then that went down really well there, which is traditionally a genre festival, so it was just like so out of place, but like it just went down so well. And then when we were sending it out to other festivals like all over the world, a lot of them I was like, look, if you're an English speaking country, will you play it without the subtitles like first? Because a lot of the time people would be like, oh well, we'll take the subtitle version as well, you know. But the feedback we were getting was, if people just watched the first like 5 minutes without the subtitles and watched the lads on the bench talking and their characters, that they didn't matter if they couldn't understand everything that they were saying, they got, like, you know, the cut of their jib, what they were saying, you know, and then they were just ready to laugh. And because all the characters have their own unique kind of ways about them, like, you didn't have to understand like everything that they said, you know. So like, I mean, when it went on Netflix first, and it went on Netflix in like all of the Netflix countries to start with, which it normally never does, and we just couldn't believe like people were connecting with it online. And even like up to last year, there was like people visiting from China, and they were coming and taking pictures from the movie and then recreating scenes like from all over like sets, and they were hard enough places to find, some of them, like, you know. And so yeah, like we just couldn't believe it. So I suppose, yeah, it was great though. But so it did travel well, which we're, you know, really happy.
Were they getting their own Billy masks off the internet and disguising themselves? And no, that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I've got nothing from those. No percentage cut, nothing. I know a guy actually contacted me. He said, I go out to China quite a lot. I'm involved in manufacturing if you want me to get the masks made. But when we originally got the mask made in Dunleary, it's quite a tedious process. It's quite claustrophobic, but yeah, they're quite expensive to get made now.
Shane, would there be a market for Billy Murphy personal protective equipment, like a Billy Murphy mask that can kind of filter out?
Well, I was going to ask Peter for a loan of one of the masks for Halloween a couple of years ago, and I thought that would be very meta.
Very meta.
Me as me, you know, or me as Billy, or whatever, you know what I mean?
But Shane, you have had comic books written about you, have you not?
I have had comic books, yeah, I have. And I actually genuinely, outside of that, I do think that a comic book or a cartoon could expand the universe a little bit more, you know. But that's
universe now. What, oh my goodness.
Pardon?
It's the universe, like the Marvel universe with the young offenders.
Yeah, like, why not, you know? Like Beavis and Butthead type of stuff, you know. If the lads want to move on and do other projects, then they can, but there'll be a cartoon. So you never know.
Just talking about the international pickup in terms of the language and stuff, because we were on Netflix party, and Saoirse, who's in this Zoom as well, is from America originally, and turned on the captions, the subtitles, if you like, to follow the action.
Erica.
Yeah.
But we actually had just randomly, I think it was just outside Washington. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a couple of places that continuously were playing the movie for their cinema clubs, and they were selling out night after night. And then they all started picking up in the states around it. It was just like this cluster that like kind of just got attached to the movie, and they would send us pictures. We were like, what's going on here? Like, it's mental.
Dominic, did you and Shane knew each other from graffiti theatre days? Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Shane and I worked on a show together called Where in the World is Frank Sparrow? It was a theatre show for kind of older teenagers with an educational theatre company called Graffiti, and I think it's fair to say we hit it off pretty quickly. Shane, is that right?
We did, yeah. We had a great time, actually. It was this theatre company is very supportive of the arts in Cork. A lot of people have come through there, I know Orla, who's involved in the television show. Lots of other Ray Scannell Tig, who works with Dominic. Ty Kickie works with Dominic, and I think Killian Murphy was involved in graffiti as well. So we've had a great support in being able to do TY shows over the last. Well, we're getting a bit old for it now, Dominic. I think
a little bit.
A little bit old, but I did 3 shows with graffiti, and I did one with Dominic, and it was a great experience to put on these shows for teenagers, and it not to be patronising and kind of accessible theatre, and the people out there have been very, very supportive of us over the last 10 or 15 years and helping our careers. It's very important that young actors have a space to make mistakes, I think, and I've certainly made enough of them.
Well, just to follow on from what Shane was saying there, like I was very early in my acting career when I worked with graffiti, and I worked with Shane for the first time, and he was very good at kind of informing me as to what the business side of it was about, and what you're entitled to as an actor, and how to protect yourself, and how to stop yourself getting taken advantage of financially, and that you kind of have to make the decision, if I'm going to treat this as my career and as my profession, I have to stop doing things for free, because otherwise people will just keep asking you to do things for either free or very bad money. So Shane was very, very good at kind of advising me in that regard.
Yeah, and then we did the film
for free. So
no.
You did it for free now.
No.
Time it was for free.
But to be clear, the concern, what I was just talking about earlier, was we hear, we'll get it paid at the back end. We have been paid, so like there's no issues with the Young Offenders or Vico Films or anything like that. But these would have been discussions that we would have had with other projects, and people going, there's great exposure and all of this nonsense.
Yeah.
And even with what's happened with COVID, you would think that it has kind of diluted, but it hasn't. If anything, it's kind of increased that people want things for free. You know what I mean? So it's a very tricky business at the moment. So things like this are a great idea.
I think I don't know if it was Dom or Shane, one of you or maybe both of you were references as liking League of Gentlemen, and just when you're talking about Graffiti Theatre Company, it always makes me think, not graffiti as such, but about Legs Akimbo Theatre Company and their portrayal of what theatre and education plays could be if they were done horrifically wrong. But I've seen a lot of graffiti work, and it's not Legs Akimbo.
Well, I can answer that one, because I love the League of Gentlemen, and it's possibly my favorite comedic TV show. I've worked for other educational theatre companies, and they were a lot more similar to Legs Akimbo in terms of how grim it was to go into a school hall at 6 o'clock in the morning and march around in bare feet in front of apathetic kids. So I know the pain of the League of Gentlemen all too well.
And just something you said there, Shane, you said once, acting is a vocation.
Yeah.
Without it sounding wanky, that's your words. But I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it, because the rewards are not what you think. I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it.
Wow. I say that with a pinch of salt, because I think when they come up to you and they talk to you about it, I haven't gone the traditional route either. Chris and Alex, who are the leads in the film, have now had the opportunity to go down the traditional route of getting excellent training before ever getting to go away to London for training or Dublin, So, I took the long way around. So it's a difficult business to get into. So, but I think when you're talking to kids, or particularly younger people, when they are getting involved in it, you get a vibe from them whether they're going to stick at it or not. And I think grit and determination and resilience is vitally important. The hustle as well. The hustle is a massive part of the job. Like I'm just very lucky that I had the opportunity to make mistakes in smaller productions and short films and stuff like that. Because I have a lot of kids saying, I'd love to be in films and television, but they won't take the opportunities that are given to them, like doing short films or doing free plays for years. But as my advice to Dominic was, you need to say no to those things quite quickly. I know that sounds a very harsh thing, but it's like wanting to be a priest or something like that. It's a bit of a weird one. I can't completely explain it myself.
Great analogy.
I'm not gonna jump on that last analogy at all, because that could get very, very dark. But obviously we were looking at the film The Young Offenders. I'm very aware that the two lads have been a part of the TV show, and that the third series of the TV show is 10 days away from screening. So we might just have a quick chat about the TV show. So Dom, how has the TV show differed, I suppose, from making the movie?
It's a good question. I mean, with the TV show, there's kind of an expectation, or there's the knowledge that there's a fan base there. So you're kind of making it with that in mind. You're a bit less naive, but it's grueling. Like last summer was very grueling. We shot seasons 2 and 3 back to back, and that was very full on. From a personal perspective, my character has been allowed to expand a hell of a lot. Healy's had a much more developed storyline, and I think you get to see parts of his personality, particularly in the third season, that you wouldn't have gotten from the film or the first couple of seasons. So that's been really enjoyable. Yeah.
And how have you found the TV show? I presume with the TV show, Shane, comes more fame and people shouting things at you on the street and all that kind of.
Oh yeah, well that's all fantastic because I'm good at it. I used to give out samples in supermarkets as a job, you know, those little bits of cheese and crackers. And
did you get paid for that, Shane? Did you get?
Very little.
Hobby. Okay.
But I'm okay with meeting people. I enjoy it, and because my character has a bit of an edge, I live in Dublin in Fairview, and I live quite close to Ballybock, so I might walk through rough areas to get home sometimes, not necessarily Ballybock, but the teenage kids who like the show have been so responsive to me. It's amazing. And I also do workshops in schools about this resilience and communication. So it's made my work life a whole lot easier when I'm giving workshops with graffiti about mental health and stuff like that, because the kids assume that they know me straight away, which isn't the case. But doing the show is fantastic. Myself and Dominic had the opportunity to work with each other a little bit more in season 3, which I really enjoyed, and I'm not just saying it because he's there next to me. But bringing it back to the film ever so briefly, I think I'm really lucky with the people I've worked with. Obviously Julie and Peter from the outset, but also Alex and Chris, that they were so switched on and so sharp, because although we had a script, and I know Julie was in the kitchen that day when we were throwing bags of flour around the place, and I was getting repeatedly hit on the head by Hillary with this pressure cooker, I think it was. Alex was accepting, and you were there as well, Dom, but you could confirm like that. Alex was very accepting of the offers that I was giving to him as an improviser and as an actor, and I think that's the success of the show, is a big part down to the two central actors, that they have a maturity about them, that they'll run with your ideas, and they'll run with their own ideas and test and see if they're good enough. Because a lot of the ideas I was bringing to the table, I know a lot of more insecure actors, we'll say, or more even experienced actors would not have accepted what I was bringing to the table. So I feel very lucky with the other people that I've worked with, and I include the original crew and the crew that we're working with now, because that's a massive, massive part of it, because you have to be relaxed to but do these crazy things on set a lot of the times, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel very, very lucky that especially the lads, you know, are so accepting and so intelligent.
And did I read that the third season is the last season? Oh, okay.
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
I think there's life, and I think there's more life in it.
Well, there's going to be an animated series. Shane's going to actually do all the voicing for it, which is great because it just gives us a break.
I'll do them all, yeah.
Or a
animated
spin-off.
superhero.
Yeah, exactly. Or a spin-off series about
the comic book from the kids that they sent me. They should just move ahead with that, you know.
Absolutely. Julie, can I ask you where? I know we were having a brief discussion before some of our guests arrived, but where now for Irish cinema in the current climate?
I mean, like, no one knows is really the short answer of it. like the nature of sales and distribution is definitely changing, and instances before where you'd have, you'd need a good strong theatrical before you'd go online or VOD is definitely changing, and the windows of how long cinemas need to have it before it can go online, like all of that's very much in flux and changing. Like their cinema chains are also closing down, like I know at least one has in Ireland, so we're really hopeful that it can pick back up. Like the movies that released, like there was maybe around 3 or 4 Irish titles that released just before this hit, like Sea Fever and Camera Horses and stuff, and they're all being re-released again now. So I know it's, we're just hoping that, we want people to go into the cinema, obviously being a safe environment. Like I went to the cinema last week, and if you book a seat here, the ones in front and behind you are booked out. It just so happened now there was literally 6 of us in this whole entire cinema, so it was like a private viewing, But of course, that's not really going to work to to keep independent film alive in Ireland. So, the hope is that it will come back to normality next year when it's safe for everyone to leave their house and go back out. But just the whole way movies are being funded now, and the way we're going to view movies moving forward, are just, I think, going to be totally different. I don't think anything's just going to go back to normal, but like hopefully we can still, make independent film, because, even if it is low budget, it is employing a lot of people, especially in rural areas, and getting a lot of people together to make, creative art, as you know yourself.
Absolutely, no, and it's crucial to art centres like our own and many art centres around the country to showcase Irish cinema and independent cinema. Before I finish up, I would like to ask a slightly personal question. I had said to Shane earlier about Liverpool winning. So Roy Keane was in the Young Offenders. Did anybody meet him?
I was very frustrated that I wasn't brought in that day. I was actually, I think the term is I got my back up. Yeah, I could say worse, but I was really annoyed that I wasn't brought in.
Even more frustratingly than Shane, I was actually in that day, but they didn't bring me to set when he was there. I think they just didn't want 2 such titanic egos clashing.
Me or you?
On the day. I'll leave that open to interpretation.
It would have been like Saipan.
It would have been like Miss Saigon, Paul.
I had heard
disaster.
From one of the drivers that he did say, "Where's Billy?" So I take that as a compliment. Yeah. I'm sure I'll meet him somewhere down the line. I'm only looking forward to doing that. But apparently a gentleman on the day, the lads said he was lovely. Hillary said he was lovely. So that was great. More of that if we can.
I like the fact that as it gets darker, Dominic is kind of becoming like Apocalypse Now, and it's around him. He's fading into the darkness.
That's not a mistake, Paul. That's very good on my part.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us. As I said, we've recorded this. Mary Claire will now have to edit it and make it sound good to send out to some of our patrons who can't come out to theatres or cinemas at the moment. We might ask the actors and Julie to stay on for a second, but for our few people who are here today, thank you so much for coming. We are not doing a August one because we are doing a play, an actual play with real people at it in Annaverna House, like we do every year. So, and it will be fully socially distanced and everything. So,
Paul, give me a job, will you?
we don't pay very well. But
it's great exposure.
Great exposure. Brilliant. Yeah.
I'm very excited to get back to actually seeing people, because doing stuff like this is okay, but it's not the same. So thank you to Nisha, Leona and Circa for joining us in person, and we'll see you soon.